I'm just making a recording for your future reference as well. Hope that is fine with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So this is a welcome to SAP Canada Payroll. So I've taken, as we discussed, so we'll be covering today some small topic and small but very essential topic, that is that Canada taxation part. Okay. So before I start, we'll be starting with our session with a quote. So this gentleman has given a set statement in the long back, like the hardest thing to understand in the world is the income tax. So I hope you will be agreeing with me. So just to start with, so understanding tax is not very easy for any country payroll, whether it is not only for Canada, whether it is India or Australia or US. Okay, so we'll be covering these things. We'll be giving, I'll be giving text an overview point of view. Then we'll be seeing in the system also, like what are the things we generally uh, cover from a taxation point of view. What are the things we're going to cover? In today's session, the idea is to give just a holistic overview, but in the actual session, we'll be going deep dive into the topic. Okay. So before we start, so this is some just fundamental things which you are already know about. This is not for you people who are not into Canada. Like there are 10 provinces and there are some specific peculiarities in Quebec. Okay, so all these details I can skip it for the time being. You are already aware of it. So employment rules again. So when it comes to employment rules, it's a financial year start from 1st April to 31st of March. And from an individual taxation point of view, for an individual taxpayer, it is the 1st January to 31st of December. And the individual tax return, the filing is must be done in your 30th of April of the following year. So this is your employment generic rules and the key dates when it comes to taxation in Canada. And this is your high level, how a typical Canadian tax, this is the mind map, which I can explain you. Okay. So when it comes to Canada payroll taxation, so there are major, we have a 3 categories. So like we have a federal tax, and there is a second one is a provincial tax, third one is a local or territory tax. So before I explain, I would like to understand from you, Mas, like what do you understand? Because you have already worked so long in Canada. So I would like to understand from an as a layman, what do you understand by these 3 categories of tax?
I mean, like I'm aware of the federal taxes, which you mentioned, like CPP and employment insurance, and what are the rules, sort of the government rules around it. And then obviously, when we are working on in different provinces, we have our own taxes and different rates on the basis of which province you are and what your location is, and that combined the federal tax portion and then the provincial tax portion. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, about the territory tax. I mean, like that's also, like, for example, the Ontario employer health tax for us, it's also called, like, as far as I know, this comes under the provincial tax bracket as well. But I mean, like if you have separately mentioned it, that's fine as well. But for example, the provincial tax, like Quebec pension plan, Quebec parental insurance plan, and compensation, and like last one I don't know, worker skill development and recognition fund. I mean, like I don't know about those, but the first 3, they all come under the tax bracket of provincial tax. So I mean, like these 2 things get together to basically get an idea of what the total tax value would be for the person.
Yeah, that's fine. So that's absolutely correct. So what we will be doing, so in the upcoming sessions, today that's giving an overview. So you are absolutely correct. Federal tax is actually so the center level. So at the overall in Canadian government, which is regulated by Canada. So it's at the center level. And similarly, under, as you have mentioned clearly, I have also mentioned in this mind map, like under federal tax, we have 2 categories. One of your is your Canadian pension plan, and second one is your employment insurance. Okay, so all these details will be going through in upcoming session. But for the timing, this is the high level. We have to understand what is the federal tax. This is the center level. Similarly, we do have a provincial tax. Province, as per your different, we have in Canada, we have 10 different provinces. Different provinces have their own certain peculiarities, or they have their own certain things specific to a taxation point of view. Okay, so those things will be understand in the system point of view. So what are the different configurations, what are the different updates regularly happen in those modules, so specific to your provincial tax, which will be seen. Okay, so that things will be covering in the provincial tax. As you have already mentioned, like there are certain things which are in this diagram I have not just at a high level I have given, but when it comes to local or territorial tax, different states or different like Quebec is very unique in Canada, so it has its own pension plan, it has its own parental insurance plan. Okay, what are those plans and all we will be seeing in the sessions, upcoming session. But this is just a mind map at a very high level. When it comes to taxation point of view, if somebody is asking you what do you understand by different taxation perspective, you can at a high level, if this is a diagram to remember, the federal tax, provincial tax, and local and territory tax at a high level you can explain to that person. At the same time, different organization I have also seen, they have their different unions. Okay, so you are you familiar of with any, have you worked on any kind of union scenario, Mas?
I haven't worked with the unions. That's another piece which I have never worked on.
Hmm.
I mean, like I know that there are collective bargaining agreements, but I haven't configured those. And this is Canadian specific payroll thing that there are unions and the collective bargaining agreements, and then the union dues and the different hours, I believe. So I mean, like this is another part which I
Hmm.
uh, want to know about.
Exactly. So we will be covering all the stuff because unions are very difficult to handle when it comes to the, because SAP will not be knowing what kind of situations, what kind of scenarios we'll be having. Okay. So those are little tough to understand, and how we'll be customizing those things and how we'll be setting up this in the system. Okay. So those things also are, because I have worked one or two scenario 2 years back on those scenarios. I've still it's fresh in my mind, so those are some little complex things, but I will be explaining you through how to handle those kind of scenarios, collective bartering and all. Okay, so we'll be covering all those topics, but this is at a high level. Today's service I'll be covering,
Yeah.
and on the top of that, the official website. So you have to always the reliable information from your official website from Canada government. Okay, so this is one of the example which what are the from a payroll perspective. So they have a dedicated deduction formula. They call it a T4127. Are you familiar about this deduction formula? And by any chance?
I mean, like to be honest, I don't really remember it that well with the name T4127.
Hmm.
I mean, like formulas I might be familiar of, but not with the name.
No worries, no worries. I will be guiding you through all these in details, but just to give an overview today, as it is demonstration session, so we'll be going into deep into it. But in some cases, I will ask you like this. There are certain topics which I will be asking you to go through the government website before we start.
Mhm.
There are some prerequisites for before some of the sessions. Okay, I'll be just taking you through, and I'll be asking you to go through that so that it will be a little easy for us to discuss that topic. Okay. So I will be in
Mhm.
this way. We will be following the approach. Okay. Okay, so this is the guide, general government website, and other than that, then next comes to your info types. So where exactly from a taxation point of view, what are the different specific Canada payroll specific info types we maintain? These are coming under four categories, as I was mentioning: the 461, 462, 463, and 464. So
Mhm.
461 info type, what does it explain? Directly I'll be going in the system and I will anyways in the system I will show. Before that I will take you in the screenshot I have taken already. So 461 info type, it explains how those tax assigned to a particular person. Okay, so it depends upon, there are four different fields. So we'll be seeing in this particular info type we maintain the provinces. The provinces plays a better much significant role whenever you are assigning a tax. Okay, so for that reason the employees jurisdiction, it comes under your province of the employment is very essential. So here in this, the employee belongs to Ontario. That's the province of employment. Okay. So similarly, the residence also may vary. So it just I'm given a hypothetical example here. It may happen the employee is staying somewhere, but he's working somewhere else. So you must have seen those kind of scenarios, isn't it? Must?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like there are a lot of people who live on the border
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Quebec and Ontario, and
Yes.
they move all
Exactly. People who are living in the border, actually, they will be having this kind of scenario. People, province in the residence, and it happens in India as well. But in terms of in India also, where I stay and what that differs again. So there we have something called professional tax that differs. Okay. So in India also same thing happens, but in Canada also similar situation. So those kind of information we capture in this particular info type, which is the 461. Okay. So we define those jurisdiction and all these things. Similarly, when it comes to province, specific to province, specific province for Canadian payroll, So we have defined those things in there is a specific info type, which is known as, there is form with the name of the form, we call TD1 form. Okay. So that form, you have to mention which provinces you will be belonging to. And on the top of that, you also, any kind of deduction or credit. Okay. So all those things will be captured in your, like, that waiver, any provincial data. So how many dependents are there with you staying, and how many of them are under 18. Okay, so all those details will be captured in this info type 462. Similarly, we do have a 463, which is a federal tax. Okay, so we have a different form from that. Again, like we have a TD1X. Okay, so this is the estimated remuneration and what is the estimated expenses. Okay, all those details will be captured in your 463. And these are some of the key data points when it comes to the Canadian payroll. Okay. Other than this, they have another info type which I have not taken the screenshot here, 464. Any kind of additional tax data which is not captured here. As I was mentioning, there are three types of tax data, right? Provincial, federal, and other types of data. So those things also can be maintained in your info type 464. So these are some of the key data points from a taxation point of view. Now, before I go to the system, any questions here before I go to the system? This is a very basic thing today I have shown to you.
I mean, like these ones, I'm a little bit like I worked with these, but and I guess the all the settings behind them are standard. We don't have to do with them. I guess we only have to update the tables, and from those tables, the amounts are populated in 462. That's what I remember vaguely. And then there are standard PCRs which do the work, and we can't really do much about the text PCRs.
Exactly, you're absolutely correct. So most of the things that is a standard. Okay, in some cases, only in case of any year-end activities you're doing. Okay, so any kind of year-end activities or any kind of those mid-year activities or some kind of regulatory changes. Suppose because due to this COVID-19, also there are some SAP notes came up. Okay, some variation in the rules and all. So those kind of changes you will be doing through your those SAP notes and all. Okay. So I'll be having a separate session for that. But for the time being, I will just quickly take you through. So let me go to the system and I will have a glance on that. Let me
Do you have to create? Sorry, I just wanted to ask one thing. It's for. Do we need to create custom PCRs for any of the text part in it?
No. So mostly it
No.
is not, unless and until if you are handling your union. Okay. Only in case of union, if it is too much complicated and you are having those kind of agreements and all. But ideally in US and Canada, the standard things. Okay. So standard PCRs and schemas, whatever is already there, that is more than enough. But you can still customize those, whatever is to extent it is required. But from a taxation point of view, from a statutory taxation point of view, you do not have to touch anything. Okay, so because it is already regulated by your provinces and your federal government. Okay, so mostly SAP will be giving all those nodes, KBAs, knowledge-based articles to you. Then once you apply those nodes, and automatically system will take care of it. So from a taxation point of view, I have not seen much. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it. But the initial configuration, which I will be explaining now, are you able to see my SAP screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go to the transaction code called SPRO. So I have a small quiz here. Like, do you know why this is called SPRO?
To be honest, it was what used to call it implementation guide.
Yeah. Implementation
I mean,
guidelines.
like,
That's fine. Yeah.
yeah, we always used to call it SPRO. So basically, I mean, like, we never dived into it.
This is just a fun. This is just for fun. Actually, even I didn't know. Even I started my career in 2010. I didn't know these things up to 2 years of my initial career. In 2012-13, one of my managers simply asked, like, what we are using this SPRO. What is the? Do you know these things? What is the mean? What is the meaning of it? It's just the full form is actually SAP. S for SAP. PRO means project reference object. SAP project reference object. Okay, because these are considered all as objects, right? And from a technical point of view, from a product point of view, these are different objects. SAP, your pay, because it contains all the modules of your SAP, whether it is HR, finance, MMSD, any module it captures, all these are considered as an object. And for that reason, we call it a SPRO. This is just to just a fun. to understand, because most of the transaction code doesn't have its acronym, but this transaction code has its own acronym. Okay, so
By the way, this is the HANA back, like, is it
yeah,
on HANA? Or
exactly. I'm using the latest one, so you'll be seeing all this web GUI. So screens are little different compared to your
Mhm.
traditional classic screen. I'm using the latest system. Okay, so you'll be seeing for that reason you'll be seeing the screens a little different. Even I found little challenging in the initial days, but now I'm comfortable with this. Okay, this GUI and all this HANA updated one. So now you can see all of your payroll configuration related to Canada. It will be under your payroll, under your payroll Canada. Okay, so we'll be going to
Mhm.
payroll Canada, and under that we will be having. So your specific today as well be covering the taxation part. So we'll not be going details about other configuration. We'll be focusing on the taxation part. Okay. So if I go, there's a taxation configuration node. Inside that, okay, you will be having all those detailed configurations. Okay. So the first thing first, whenever you are defining in the business, what is the business number? Any idea, Marsh?
I guess business number, as far as I remember, it is required for the CRA
Hmm.
filing, and we do need to
Exactly,
provide it when
exactly.
we are creating the T4s.
Yeah, you're absolutely fine. You're absolutely correct here. So basically, the business number, whenever you are establishing your organization and you are start configuring, and you must have some business number which you will be communicate to your CRA, Canada Customs and Revenue Agency. That business number has been maintained here. Let's say during your implementation, this is a one-time activity. You do not have to come back here again and again. Okay, this configuration you can see there is some registration number you have I have mentioned here, as these configurations are okay, there are some additional registration number also is been mentioned, but this is a dummy number I have given here, but it will be specific to your CRA, whatever you are communicating to CRA. Okay? So that you have to maintain here and which city it belongs to. Other than that, suppose there is a case scenario of a merger and acquisition, which is very much common. So in case you are acquiring a company, your company, so that will be, suppose it is having a different registration number, those details also you can maintain here. So those it can be, if it is merging with you, then till the time it is merged with your parent organization, then you can utilize those. You can just, for your information, all those registration number you can maintain. This is as simple as that. After maintaining each and every registration number, there is setting things called assign addresses. So what we do here, so basically, if you see, you maintain that specific address. So here in this example, I have not mentioned those address details, but you can mention here. So like business number, account type, here in the name, you can mention that, and the street details, where exactly the location of that. This is just for an information purpose, and from a reporting point of view also, this is essential. Okay? So these details you'll be maintaining the street section and all. Once you do this, then you have to, after doing this, you have to assign that tax reporting unit to the business number. Okay? So this is also I have not done in this particular in system, but you can add your new entries and you assign your registration number, which we will be going into detail whenever I'll be covering all this topic in detail. Just for a demonstration point of view, this is some of the things which you have to do for the first time whenever you are implementing. Okay. Other than that, we have those statutory details automatically when you apply those notes, those tables get updated. Okay. So that I will be covering in the upcoming sessions whenever we'll be going through that. And similarly, as I was mentioning, Quebec has its own specific taxation details, okay, that we can define in the defined revenue Quebec taxation ID. So there's a dedicated node for Quebec specific taxation ID. It doesn't fall under the first one, which I have mentioned here. So that you can define in the Quebec specific ID. The nodes looks very similar, but you have to maintain separately in the Quebec specific node. Okay? So that is regarding your assigning address and all. Okay. So similarly, we do have scenarios for merger and acquisition, which I was mentioning here, right? So you can define those very specific node for your specific to business transaction. Suppose your company A has been merged with the company B. Okay, so company A must be having some old business number or your tax ID. Okay, so in that case, you can maintain those. What was the old business transaction business number and what is the new business number, that you can maintain it here. Okay, and all those details it can be mentioned in this scenario in this taxon related node. Okay, similarly we have there are different types of ways, what are different ways types which will be considered for your health tax. Okay, which are the waste types will be mentioned. So whenever you are going to this node, again it will be asking you for specific country. Okay, so again you can go back to the specific country, you can find out the series of waste types. Okay, what are the waste types is responsible for your health tax earnings and all. Okay, so that you can maintain here. Anyway, we will be going deep dive into it, like once we start configuring and all those things. At the same time, we do have a BAdIs. So just two quick question again for you, Mas. So what do you understand by a BAdI, by the layman? How will we explain a BAdI? Why we require it in a typical program?
It's basically a customization, sort of customization, where when it is not being achieved by
Hmm.
the regular configurations, you write a bit of code in a BAdI and like
Hmm.
and sort of combine it with the code. With
Hmm.
it, I mean,
Exactly.
like it's all through the ABAP program also.
Exactly. This is a technical program of programming of it. As I was an ABAPer, I did it in my initial 2 years when I was an ABAPer. So at that point of time, I used to do all these things. So these are the bodies we have to understand as a functional consultant, even if you do not know the technicality of it, but at least you should know what is the purpose of each and every bodies. Okay. So whenever I am talking about, say, taxation or any benefit integrations or any loans configurations and all, so we have to understand those technicality of those bodies. What is the purpose of that? Okay, all this information also you do not have to revisit in your SAP documentation. Rather, in the configuration node itself, you'll be finding what are those purpose, and also they have given an example. So for this body, actually, which I am showing you, it is an example of a merger and acquisition scenario. Okay, so they have mentioned like if any business number or for a company changes to a new business number, there is an implement this particular interface. Okay, this interface you may not be knowing all this in detail, but in case of merger and acquisition scenario, you can ask to understand this interface name at least, so that you can explain this interface name to the adapter, and he will be doing those changes in the customization. Okay, so all these things can be, this is from a functional consultant point of view. You have to understand the interface name and what are the series of activities you will be doing. That is very clearly mentioned here. It is a very simple step-by-step process. Okay, so which I will recommend always whenever you are doing such kind of configuration, to always follow the nodes which is beside your configuration node, instead of checking through the implementation guide. Anyway, you can follow the implementation guide, but at the same time, because your system, suppose if you are using HANA system, at present which I am showing is HANA system, and suppose if you have used any old ECC, your 6.0 or 4.0 or 5.0 old system, then the documentation will may vary. Okay, so for that reason, you always follow the documentation which is there in the configuration node itself. At the same time, for the further information, suppose if you like to have some kind of, there is a hyperlink to it. Okay, you can always refer those nodes. Okay, all those examples and all the scenarios. Okay, where the table name. Okay, all those details you'll be finding in this kind of documentation. It's always handy. Even I prefer, whenever I'm doing the implementation, I always prefer to check the directly go to the node. I definitely I refer the implementation guide, but at the same time I refer this documentation which is there in the inbuilt in the system. Okay, so I always prefer that. So this is some of that high level. We understood the concept of a taxation and business number, and what are the different things are here at the overall level. So what we will be doing, so typically, so you have understanding of your, from a Canadian payroll, I just want to understand again from you, how comfortable you are in your, just to you rate yourself from a functional understanding, from a process understanding from a Canadian government, how much you will be rating yourself out of 5, Mas?
To be honest, I won't rate myself too high on it because like the last time I touched payroll was about
Okay.
2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
So
Then I will be planning accordingly. So I'll be taking you through step by step, detailed way. Okay. So suppose if you know something, then we can skip that. Okay. Otherwise, I will be taking you through another details about it. Okay. So what I'm planning, Mas, for you. So we will be having then the general approach I follow. So we will be having a sessions once we are done with approximately 15 to 20 sessions, depending upon our pace. Okay, the way you understand. Okay, 15 to 20 session, each of approximately 1 hour. Okay, so we will be covering to that. And other than that, if you still need some extra additional session beyond that, then I will happy to help you in this regard as well. The main value is actually you have to understand each and every point, nitty-gritties of your entire Canadian payroll. Okay, we'll be covering each and everything. At the top of that, I'll be also towards the end, I'll be giving an overview of your employee central payroll, because these days many of the customers, they are moving from your on-premise payroll to your employee central payroll. Generally, I conduct a different session for your employee central payroll, but for you, I'll be giving an overview at the end of the session. We'll be having another 1 or 2 sessions specific for your employee central payroll, and as well as I'll be covering some advanced topic like your payroll control center. Are you aware of payroll control center, Thomas?
I've heard of it. Again, I haven't worked with it, but I've
Okay.
heard with it.
Okay, definitely. Then I will be covering that topic also, including in this Canadian payroll. So this is an extra bonus session for you. I'll be having that payroll control center, which is not only for success factor. Even if you are using on-premise payroll, say for Canada payroll, okay, you will be finding those configurations. So I'll just quickly take you through that, because it is my HANA system. So you will be having those nodes specific to your payroll control center. So basically, what we use payroll control center, this is not a very new thing. It came off in 2012-13, but due to this many interactive payroll functionalities you'll be finding in the payroll control center. Okay, you can control whatever you're getting through the all those alerts, configuration, all those APIs. Okay, all those things can be configured in your payroll control center. And it is evolving. It is still evolving. It is a very progressive module in SAP HCM payroll. It is not only for Canada payroll. So that things I'll be covering in this section. There is a dedicated section. Those boards are available in this payroll control center. You can see, are you able to see the payroll control center necessity node? Okay, so these configurations also I'll be covering on the top of your Canadian payroll, because this is also very essential to understand. Okay, what are the payroll process management, what is the process template, what are the different policies. Okay, so all those details I'll be covering in this payroll control center. There will be a dedicated session for it, payroll control center, towards the end. Okay, and I'll be, so that it will be an add-on value to your current profile. Okay, I hope it will be easy to understand. I'll be entire thing I'll be taking you through entire payroll control center. Any other thing you would like to discuss?
So, a couple of questions.
Yes, please.
And sorry, because like I was calling you Aditya. So just to confirm, what should I? It's what is the name? Exact name?
Okay, so you can simply call me Nayak if you are finding my first name is difficult. Okay,